cameras are better speed device than me, also.
You just have
Did you get to try to holiday? Oh, yeah. Have you got it? No. I set it up after the presentation. Yeah. The public cardboards, just up there.
Actually, we kept the cardboards on the cover just for these audience, but with them off.
There's a big table full down there. Just give them away.
I think they just throw them away from all Where did you find it?
Excuse me, in the
biggest in the US. I really feel like the US does a good job. It's different sometimes.
This is about these.
Hi. So, you gonna present something?
Yeah.
Do you need something like this? You need to get the what?
Presentation. I have
Right?
Sorry.
More design,
Hang on, baby. Oh, yeah, yes.
Yes. Oh, thank you. There's one second again for.
Yeah.
Oh,
everybody presents the images about so, yeah, they're all the same field.
How do we talk about?
Along,
You see the video? Control stuff happening when you're on stage. What? There is Oh, I see English. Yeah. No, Flash is the lead developer in Made Space. Steve is Flash. Yeah, that's just as rock star.
Oh yeah,
That's
both experiences are amazing.
Yeah, because the music, I think, really makes the difference very often. Like star music really has a big effect on music. So,
Everybody's ready for the comments. Amazing.
What? Did you tear up? Tear up.
Oh yeah.
And you look at the links.
Yeah.
That's all we were going for.
For education. So,
Oh, well, they have blazed, yeah, they have blazed, and there's not,
That's right.
well, that's right. It's not that blazed, and finally-
Oh,
Something good was it? That was.
Is it?
Yes.
All right.
Yay.
Well done.
Last like 3-4 days.
There we go. I remember too. You were saying that, Ellie, you know, Ellie, Cameron Sessions. Ellie House.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of.
I was looking at this 3D.
hi guys, we're gonna start soon. More people coming. So first of all, we're gonna have a few cardboards, and I think we're gonna give them to the people who are gonna ask questions. It's just to engage the audience. What else? We doing a live broadcast on YouTube. So if you have anyone who is not here, but he wanted to go, but there was a rain, then sun, another rain, and he missed this completely. So you can give them a YouTube link. I'm not sure, how can I tell you which one is it? It should be, probably don't know.
It's retweeted under the 3Dcamp Twitter account.
Yeah, so you can ask around and someone can provide you with the link. We have 3 viewers at the moment, so I'm gonna do some marketing too. Was in a rush yesterday, so I wasn't able to prepare QR codes, sorry. Yeah, so we're gonna start in about 15 minutes. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some much education. At the moment, it's very different. Yeah.
It's based on general construct.
Yeah, I was talking to them, I was trying to get us to just a couple of euros, please, instead of $3 million. $3 million.
I think these never spin off the bigger sum.
That's what he asked us for, and it's $3 million.
He said he was an offer on it.
Yeah.
$3 million.
So, yeah.
And the money isn't that good.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's not like
Yeah.
$3 million. So, you know, like yeah, my guys, like maybe 2 or 3 months, you know, I'm thinking. Unrealistic.
Yeah.
Very unrealistic, you know, especially at this early stage, you know. $3 million for a model.
The inside of it.
I don't know.
He just
But that's what he's
said-
looking at for us. It's not all around there.
Yeah.
And we would have done a good job, like, we would have done a VO1 through all for all.
Yeah.
$3 million.
I think the effect.
But what he's retired, you know, he's 64, and this
But
is
he
his
wasn't the only
retirement.
one.
Well, it is like, so.
He was working with some people.
Well, no, he got it for university work, he's a lecturer at a university, and it's kind of his thing, so I don't know, he's still invested in it, he made it over 18 or 20 years, so he's still invested in that.
Yeah.
Like I could get like months. My mom does it, and we create that in 3 months. We weren't able to.
Yeah.
You look pretty decent. So
How many hours? Yeah, please. How many hours?
always start that one. I would reckon maybe 150. But it depends on like if trash is so experienced.
Yeah.
Like you can do something very quickly, whereas someone does scratch.
Yes.
It's kind of aggravating with the music quite a lot.
How many years?
There's a company called Station Studio. So he's licensed from that.
Really? Yeah.
So, but in the audio, just as I was listening to the songs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it makes a big difference. It's not a big expense. Get a license for a song if you're an indie band or something.
Okay.
It is like professional songs. It's not a massive
Yeah.
expense, but it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference.
Because you can dance.
Yeah, we just started the James, the friends from the.
Yeah, exactly.
Do monitoring of the train stations.
There's a few companies out there. If you do YouTube, just YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Park station.
They use videos to do it for games.
Oh, easy.
3 minutes started.
So like I guess we would
I didn't get that impression. They kind of like do questions to people. I'm not entirely sure the actual business side of it.
I don't.
I'm not happy with that. Because we've done this really well.
We're pretty good
Remember it's just business was.
Yeah. See.
Probably like the interns. We'll do the interns here.
Yeah.
Actually, procedures, detail, so we would all fit the operation.
Yeah.
Now, you were training. I don't know how we do all this plans, because I know.
Actually, you probably want to get away from our previous.
Yeah.
Did you try the engineering demo?
Since.
I
Too far ahead.
Yeah, it was a really good sound.
You know, the special engineering. The
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
This guy does a model on the model for that.
Oh,
It's really,
Realistic. No, in the end, they're going for the second round.
Did she drop it in?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know the deal.
Yeah. Quite like the
You're also.
Actually, we're also in meetups, just all different virtual space. Virtual space.
Yeah.
Oh, they send us a body face. Volleyball, they send us a
Yeah.
body.
Oh, nice.
Score a little walk. No, just. What's he can get?
Yeah, who do you want to give away some?
I'd say we like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. You go to walk around the moon, I can just actually walk around the moon.
No, if you see him somewhere.
No, you won't charge you. If you're working in Unity, it's an easy port over.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I say PlayStation as well, that's all you just port it over. Yeah. I think there's plugins actually, it's just literally bring over this plugin for that.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, no, she said, as long as you want to come back and do the ones.
the gear is a bit different because the phone won't really run very much. So like the Apollo experience is very hard to run, but the Apollo experience you have to do something different. Like do 360 video or something.
Oh.
What's that now? Okay. Oh, shut up. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is David Whelan and I'm the CEO of Immersive VR Education. What I'd like to do just to begin with, I'm going to show you a short video, kind of explains what we do. Okay, so what we do is we create immersive experiences for use in education. You've seen a lot of history experiences up there, but we're also creating science, medical, biology, you name it, all the STEM subjects. We're actually creating virtual reality experiences. Who are Immersive VR Education? So Immersive VR Education is actually run by myself and Sandra, who is in the audience, who's the voice of Virtual Reality Reviewer. I'm actually the editor-in-chief of Virtual Reality Reviewer. We review all VR content, not just games, but any type of VR content. So if any of you are actually developing anything, send me an email and we'd be glad to put it up on the website. Our lead developer is Drash VR, who's famous for creating Titans of Space. He also created our Apollo 11 experience. Also working with us is Mike Armstrong from RiftMax, if any of you have ever seen the multiplayer theatre where you can actually join up and have a conference and watch a movie together. Our lead modeler is Mario. He actually done the Apollo cockpit. And if any of you have ever done the next generation engineering demo, Mario actually done the model for that. We also work closely with WIT and TSSG. TSSG are a major research group in Waterford, and Barry, who's the CEO, is actually a director of Immersive VR Education. Okay. So what is virtual reality? I think everybody here in the room already knows what virtual reality is. I assume most of you have an Oculus DK2, or you've tried at least the Google Cloud. I've just left that slide in there because what got me into virtual reality many years ago is when I watched The Lawnmower Man as a kid, and I thought that would be absolutely blew me away. And it's been a 20-year wait, but finally VR is
just about to be released to the public this Christmas, according to HTC. So why is VR useful in education? So often this cone of learning has been brought up many times, and it's made by Professor Edgar Dale, but the information in this is now 50 years old, okay, but when he done the research, he's seen that reading only, after a 2-week period, if somebody reads some text, they only remember 10%. If they hear words or see video, they only typically remember 30%. But if they actually experience something, an event, they retain 90% of that after a 2-week period. So our tagline is learn through experience, because we're making virtual reality experiences where we can put the player, we can actually put them on the surface of Mars, leave them walk around, we can put them at the foot of Mount Vesuvius as it erupted. They can actually see Pompeii flattened from a first-person perspective. It's literally, we're only limited by our imagination. And I actually put Confucius up there. I see and I forget, I hear and I remember, I do and I understand. So that's what we think virtual reality will be, I do and I understand, okay? So has it been used in education before? Has VR been used in education before? So it's actually been used for the past 30 years. The US military have been using it quite a lot, and also high-end medical institutions, and also NASA use it to train their astronauts to put them in situations. The reason why it hasn't been used for standard education is just the price. Like that headset there that the NASA guys using would probably cost $50,000 or $60,000, and it's so bulky you couldn't put that on a child, you'd break their neck. Okay. So these are obviously some of the main players in VR space. You have Oculus, Samsung, and Sony. That slide is a bit old. Now you have Valve coming out with the Vive. Microsoft are working on a device. Apple are hiring people to look into the device, which they'll probably release next year. So it's going to be a very, very crowded market next year. Okay, so a lot of you might know us from the Apollo 11 virtual reality experience, which we launched on Kickstarter 6 weeks ago. And I'm glad to say we were successfully funded only last week. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride, but for anybody who didn't see the Apollo 11 experience, I'll leave Sandra explain it.
Here at Immersive VR Education, we plan to provide virtual reality experiences to help educate students of all ages. We are launching our Apollo 11 experience to showcase virtual reality to schools and colleges around the world to get them excited about the endless possibilities that VR has to offer as an educational tool. Landing on the moon was one of the greatest achievements mankind has ever embarked on, and now it's time for you to step into Neil Armstrong's shoes and experience what it was like to live through this historic event. Using NASA archive footage and audio, we have created an inspirational journey that we hope will engage students and give them a better understanding of what took place back in 1969. We don't just want kids to read about history, we want them to experience history as a living entity that they can relate to. To help us achieve our goal, we need your help. Our prototype demo is just a proof of concept at the moment and just a small taste of what we have planned. Your money will help us recreate the full mission with more detailed models, animated avatars and interactive gameplay. We want to make the Apollo experience everything that it can be, and we want you to climb on board to help us achieve this goal. Neil took one giant leap back in 1969, and we are asking if you can take one small step today and back this project. Apollo 11 is just the beginning. Let's make history together and change the face of education forever.
We got you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn footed. We're breathing again.
Okay, so in the actual demo, the Apollo 11 demo, you start, I'm actually going to skip that. Okay, you actually start in a room and you watch the JFK moon speech back from 1962. So when we actually released this demo, we brought it down to a school in New Ross, which is the birthplace, it's the homeland of the JFK family. And we brought it into a school, and we had 80 children stay back on a Friday evening after school was closed. And they all stayed till they got a demo. We were there till 6 or 7 o'clock that evening. We had 4 riffs, and they're absolutely blown away. And these are some of the comments that the kids actually came back with. So we have Uncolfer, age 14, said, "I think it was quite weird. I could hear people in the background, but I still felt like I was out in space." And Sophie Dial 13 said, "It was such a visual experience. You feel like you were really there." And then when we posted it on Reddit, we got a load of comments, and this is just some of the feedback that we got. One Reddit user said, "Oh my God, I shed tears at the end, no joke. As an aerospace engineer, this is a dream come true. Back this right now." What we want to do is, when a person goes through one of our experiences, we want to get an emotional reaction from the user or from the child. Everybody here can remember where they were on when they had their first kiss, because you had such an emotional reaction to that event. But if I asked you what you'd done the day before, the day previous, you won't have a clue. It'd be very, very hard to remember. The same is if you see something traumatic, like 9/11, everybody remembers where they were on the day, but either day, either side, you can't remember any of the details. We find that if you do get an emotional reaction, especially like say if you watch a movie and get an emotional reaction from the movie, you're going to remember that movie a lot longer than like the 20 or 30 movies previously. Okay, so what we're doing is we're throwing all this factual information out in our experience while getting an emotional reaction, and the kids are actually soaking it in a lot more. Okay, the next video was posted on YouTube a couple of weeks ago by a young person that actually experienced it, and he actually sums this up a lot better than I can.
So, yeah, that was the end of the demo. I'm recording this end part because unfortunately my webcam stopped at the end there. But I'm just gonna pretty much say what I said there, and that this was absolutely amazing. Like, this was just incredible. It makes me so happy that my riff right here can make me feel such powerful emotions from something that wasn't even real. And I haven't experienced something quite like that. Maybe you guys have seen I use my riff a lot. I play a lot of different games on it, and I'm usually hyper and like crazy excited. And I'm really excited right now, but I just got a lot of emotions going through me right now. So because of just how amazingly detailed and just how awesome that was. Can you imagine, like, if you were back in high school and you were in your science class and you started talking about the Apollo missions, and instead of going through a long lecture about it, they gave you a VR headset and put you in this? How much more is that able to teach you than just someone saying what they're talking about? Not that it's a bad thing, but this is just so much more powerful. I felt like I was in that space shuttle with Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins. That was. I'm not crying, but I certainly feel like I want to, because that's all I can say about it. It was just amazing. And these guys did a fantastic job. I'm definitely gonna be backing them a lot now, because this needs to happen. This needs to become a thing. Virtual reality education, things like this need to become a thing. And I hope these guys will continue to do that. I hope they get funded, and just.
I'll actually skip on a little bit because he goes on for another 2 or 3 minutes. All right. Thankfully, we did get funded. But it's that kind of reaction, and it's not just kids, like adults are having the same kind of reaction. We're finding a lot of strong emotions from people that actually remember the moon landing. So people who are in their 70s and 80s sitting down and we're putting them inside the rift, and they do come out, they get very emotional about it, because it really is the pinnacle of technology back in the 20th century. So thankfully, as I said, we did get funded. So we're going to build the rest of the experience where we're actually going to, the experience as it is now is you go back to Kennedy Space Center back in 1969, you climb on board the Saturn V, and it brings you into space, and then the demo ends. But the full experience will actually, you go all the way to the moon, and you get to walk on the moon and get to come all the way back in a 40-minute segment. Because what we're going to do is our experiences are going to be, well, the guided experience is going to be a 40-minute experience. So what will happen is a kid will go into school and they'll have, say, double history. So for the first 40 minutes of history class, they're going to do the Apollo 11 experience. And then the second half of class, then the teacher is going to have a lot more engagement with the students. They're going to be more enthusiastic to actually learn exactly what happened. So that's what we want to bring to education. Getting back to Kickstarter, it is a really big roller coaster, right? So when we went on the Kickstarter, immediately, I think within the first 24 hours, we had 6K going to the account. We were saying, oh, we're going to freeze this. This is going to be no problem at all. And then gradually, then you just see day after day that you're getting a little bit less and a little bit less. And I think through the midpoints, there was a couple of guys actually decreased their pledge amounts. They were 150. I think they went down to 20, and we were at minus 20 or 30 euros in that day. And we were saying, oh no, this isn't going to get funded. But you just keep plowing away and you keep plowing away. And what helped us quite an amount is the subreddit, the Oculus subreddit. Anytime we put a post on the Oculus subreddit, there was always a big spike in pledges. So if anybody here is thinking of doing a Kickstarter, I recommend that you go onto the subreddit first and start getting your name out there and get known. At the very end, you'll see a massive spike. So it's an inverted U, so there's always a spike at the very end of Kickstarter. If you do a Kickstarter and you keep looking at Kickspy and Kicktrack, you'll see at the start that it's going to say we're going to succeed by like 140 or 150%, and then the midpoint is going to say, oh, you've not a hope of getting funded, you're only going to get like 60% funded. So I did more of that. Probably the best website to check out would be Sidekick, and the link is there at the bottom. They're the most accurate prediction software, and that only predicts if you're going to succeed or not, and it works by how many times you're referenced on social media. Next bit then. So we all know virtual reality is coming next year. So this year, they're saying it's going to be 2.5 million headsets or users. Next year, then, there's going to be 40 million VR users. That's probably going to be spread over maybe 20 million headsets. So somebody will have a headset, there might be 2 people using it. And you can see there's going to be a massive explosion of users over the next couple of years. The way I see it is, most of us here remember a time before the mobile phone came out and how different the world was. Once the mobile phone came out, it changed the world, and it changed my life. I use my mobile phone, smartphone, every day for hundreds of different tasks that I never thought I would. I see VR is going to be the same way, that 5 years or 3 years from now, people are going to walk around and say, do you remember the time before virtual reality, how different the world was? That's the way VR is going to change the world. Okay, and finally, we are hiring. We're setting up a studio down in Waterford. Currently, there's 5 developers. Sandra and Barry is one of the directors. So we are looking for Unity developers, non-Unity developers, modelers, and people with C and Java. Okay, so if anybody wants to come to Waterford and work with us, we'd be more than happy to talk to you. As I said, like, VR is going to change the world, and immersive VR education is going to be there, and we're going to help shape that world. Okay, thank you. I just forgot to say, finally, I actually have the Apollo demo here, and I have an Oculus Rift headset, so if you want to say later on.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
Okay, so come see me if you want to go to space later. All right, thank you.
And our presenter going to decide who's asked the best questions and give up few cards. But we have 3 presenters, so you can withhold and not ask questions now.
Yeah, anybody questions? Yeah, good.
What thoughts do you have on input? So I think talked about experiencing bits of history or the space experience, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like a scary task or challenge to surpass.
Yeah, it's the holy grail at the moment. I think there's like 20 or 30 different input devices all out there vying to be the input device. Oculus haven't announced what they're going to use. So at the moment with our experiences, there's going to be the passive experience and the interactive experience. With the Apollo experience, for example, you'd be able to do the docking sequence and walk on the moon. So you'd have to use an Xbox controller for that. With Project Morpheus, then you have the PlayStation Move, so we will support that. But we're not supporting anything until we know that users are going to have it. So, with like STEM controllers and stuff, we don't know how many people are going to have a STEM controller because it is an expense. Yeah, sorry. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people, well, I don't know how many in terms of how many people have used it, but a number of people have reported sort of motion sickness and feeling uneasy when using these. Have you had any experiences with that, especially with something like going into space?
Yeah.
And how do you see that impacting or sort of creating barriers to getting it out there?
Yeah, and a lot of people will feel dizziness, especially if you put them on a roller coaster because it's such a sudden drop. With our Apollo experience, it's actually really slow and it's guided down, but you do start from 400 feet up in the air and you look down and you feel like you're falling, but it's gradual fall, so it's not too bad, but you still get the butterfly in the stomach. The main reason people get motion sickness is if anybody's played Half-Life 2, if you start walking down a narrow corridor, okay, but you're not actually walking, but you're moving in VR, that's when you really feel your stomach churning. So if you are making a VR experience, just make sure it's in a wide open space, because if it's in a narrow space, you can actually feel the movement really quickly, whereas if it's in an open space, you don't notice that movement so much. It's imperceptible, you can't really notice it. Hopefully when we have people walking on the moon, that we'll have the mountains so far away that they won't feel sickness. But it's going to be like 10 or 15% of people are going to feel sickness no matter what. You're going to have another 30 or 40% of people that feel a little bit queasy, and everybody else is going to be fine. But you do get a tolerance to it. Okay? Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Why did you choose Apollo?
It's the best experience it's easily marketable. Like everybody understands what happened during the Apollo mission. It's one of the most recognized events in world history. Also, there's a lot of footage and a lot of detail recorded, whereas if you've done something where there's no video footage, it's a harder thing to represent. It's also something that I always wanted to travel to space, and I always wanted to be Neil Armstrong. He was one of my heroes. So this is the first thing that I thought of doing.
Was there much of a sort of debate about what you do first, or was it fairly decisive?
No, I was just like, I'm doing this. I'm doing this straight away. Actually, what makes a massive difference, I forgot to mention it, is it's the music in the experience. Like our lead developer, Drash, who done Titans of Space, it's a solar system exploration, and it's one of the top-rated demos. And a large part of that, it's not just the visuals, it's the music. It really puts you in the moment. With the Apollo experience as well, it's the music that we chose, and we used the real NASA cockpit audio as well. And it really gets the emotions, and it builds up and up and up. At the very start, we do use a 5-minute segment of the moon speech from JFK, and that stirs you up even more. By the time you actually get to space, then you're ready to, you're ready to go. I can't wait to actually blast off. So, like, music is a big part of these experiences. Okay. Yeah, no worries.
How receptive were the teachers to VR education and experiences like this in general?
They absolutely love it, because their students, a lot of them are fighting a losing battle at the moment, because their students just aren't engaged. Like, education hasn't changed in the past 200 years. Students are still reading text or looking at photographs. Even if they have iPads in the school, they're still just reading text off the iPad and looking at photographs. They're not engaged in that at all. Whereas with virtual reality, they're actually at the event, they're in the space. Like, we can shrink somebody down to the size of an atom, they can explore the inside of their body. It's very hard to actually explain how a heart functions on a book, whereas if they actually go there and look at a heart pumping and seeing the blood coming out, it's a very intuitive way of learning, and the teachers absolutely love it. And we're saying to them that, look, VR is not going to replace the teacher, it's going to enhance your students. That's what we're doing. It's an add-on to your students. So once the student does the 40-minute experience, you're going to have a bubbly students, and they're going to want to learn. So what we want to do is we want to get kids engaged in education. So in the morning, they're going to jump out of bed and actually want to go to school. And when they come home, they'll say, the mother will be there, what did you do today? And say, well, Mommy, look, I walked on the moon. Or, hi, Mom, I stood on top of a volcano as it exploded. So they're the kind of experiences that we think kids will actually want to go back to school for. Yeah. Yes, sorry, yeah.
So we have the one for the Unity medium team and Unreal Engine. So which one are you actually using?
Unity is what we're using for the Apollo experience, and most of the stuff that we will be doing will be in Unity because it's so easy to port to all the other platforms. Because we are going to be available on the Vive, we're going to be available on PlayStation as well, and any other headset that comes out sells really well. We want to be available on most platforms, so Unity is by far the easiest to port over.
And is it Unity 4.6 or is it Unity 5?
It's Unity 4.6 at the moment, but we're upgrading to Unity 5 for the final experience. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, that's fine.
I was just curious, what's your timeline? When do you see this getting completed, and do you have any idea of the next thing that you'd like to create?
Well, the Apollo experience, we have July as a deadline for that, but we have a lot of other experiences that we can't talk about at the minute. We have some very interesting projects coming out very, very soon. It's not just the Apollo experience, that's just the beginning. We're going to have 10, 15 history experiences, 10 or 15 science experiences, so experiences on all different subjects. But the Apollo one is just the one that we're leading with because it's so easy to market it.
I'm curious also, first of all, congratulations. It's
Thanks.
very awesome. What's your take on, or do you have any experience in augmented reality? What's your take on sort of the contrast between AR and VR? I know that they're obviously different, they're related.
Yeah, they're joined at the hip. I'm interested in augmented reality, and I'm going to assume that Oculus are going to have stereo cameras on front of the consumer version when they come out. So what we'd like to do will be, if you stick up your hand in virtual reality and we're doing a medicine experience, you'll actually see all the bones in your hand, and as you wave it, then you see how all the bones function. So that's one of the things that we're looking at doing. I'm definitely interested in augmented reality, but it's very hard to put our limited resources now into tech that we don't know how well it's going to sell. With the Microsoft augmented reality headset, I think it was HoloLens, like that could be $1,000 headset. We just don't know yet. And if it is $1,000 headset, it's going to have very limited use. So we need something that's going to be very commercially viable for us to actually develop for it. Okay. Yeah.
You were talking about 10 over experiences or 15. Do you already know which is going to be the next one? Do you already know what part of these three you're going to
We're already working on them.
So?
We're already working on them already. So we're building the assets and getting them ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're working flat out at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd like to tell you more,
Yeah.
but I can. Yeah. I'll tell you after, then I'll have to shoot you. Yeah, exactly. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just interested in your business model. So you see yourselves as creating content, and you just put the technology to schools and giving tools to create your own content.
We are creating the content, but we're also building a platform that we haven't announced yet. So we have to build the content to put on the platform. Okay, so I can't really say too much more about that at the moment. I'd love to tell you, but come work for me and I'll tell you. Anybody else?
Have you looked into the health implications, like wearing the device? If like it would cause your eyes to strain if you wore it excessively, or?
Yeah, well, what we've done is you've seen the health notice that comes up anytime you put on an Oculus DK2. So we're only really making experiences for kids from 14 years and up, because it's like the mobile phone. When the mobile phone came out, there was a big scare that, look, this thing burns your head when you put it up to your ear. So we want to stay away from that. So we're actually just looking at kids who are in secondary and upwards. Nice, good. So just to stay away from that, but obviously we will go to younger kids as the device is more accepted in schools and homes. Okay. Yeah.
Having used Kickstarter, I think did you exceed your target by about 6,000 or something like that? For your future projects, would you use Kickstarter again for the projects that you have down the line?
No, Kickstarter is really just for advertising. We use it for advertising. So the Apollo experience is going to cost a lot more than 36,000 to get developed. So we have other funds being poured into it. We really did use it just to get our name out there and to get our name on the map. It's very hard for a company in Ireland to get noticed in the VR space unless you do something like Kickstarter, and especially the Apollo project. That's why we went straight away for Drash as the lead developer, because he's probably the best known VR developer in the space at the time. So I pitched an idea to him from say the VR review website, and he straight away he went on board with that. So don't rely on Kickstarter to get funding, but do use it for publicity. Exactly, yeah. Yes. Yeah, sorry.
Are you working on solely single player experiences, or are you experimenting with multiplayer as well?
We have a multiplayer application for use in education, but I can't speak too much about it yet. So, but yeah, no, we're actually fairly advanced. We have a working prototype that is multiplayer. So, yeah, I can't talk about that. Anybody else? I'm kind of like a politician at the moment. Yeah, well, with the Apollo experience, it's too intensive to actually put on Gear VR as it is, because there's so many polys in the models, especially the tower that takes a lot of rendering. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a cut down 360 video. So when you download it, the thing with the Gear VR as well is if you download the Apollo experience, let's say you put the full version on, that could be 1.5 gigs. No one wants to download 1.5 gigs on their phone. And as well, if we done a full 360 video of the experience, that video will be 30 minutes long and it's a 360 video, and that's probably going to end up with being 6 gigs. So we're going to cut some segments into it, and then we'll use it as a 360 video for now. But as phones develop and they get more powerful, then it's something that we can port over. But that's why we are using the Unity, because it's so easy to port to phones, as well as obviously PlayStation and the Vive and the rest of the HMDs. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how much the software will cost?
The software. Oh, the Apollo experience is a one-off experience. Yeah, so we're going to sell that for €15. Yeah. So that's typically our one-off experiences will be €15, but we'll have packages. So if somebody is interested in, say, an explorer's package, we could do like a Christopher Columbus Apollo experience, you know, link them all in, maybe have 5 or 6 experiences and sell them maybe for 30 or 40 euros. Whatever the market will pay us for us, that's what we'll charge. We can always go down, we can't go up. Yeah.
Are you going to sell through your own platform, or are you going to put on Steam and Greenman Gaming?
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we're going to sell them as one-off experiences on Steam. Oculus will have their own platform, I assume. We'll also sell them through our own website as well, but we will have it on our own platform, so yeah.
Just out of curiosity, so what sort of performance are you getting on the regular, say, PC, like i7?
It's so many variables in that. I have a HD 7880, I think, and I'm getting 75 frames per second. Steve Crash, he's like the master of optimization. You can run his demos on nearly anything, but I'm usually getting 75 frames a second. Also, I think if you get a graphics card even slightly lower than the 7870, it'll probably judder a little bit, but it'll still run. You know, so we still have to optimize it quite a lot as well. Like, it's just really a working prototype. Is what we have. Go on.
Because I'm guessing you had a chance to run them, if you use it at this stage.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's a certain benchmark that below which you can't really go? Like, would it be a certain frame rate that you can't really go under? I'm hearing a lot of stuff like this. I'm usually able to handle 30 frames per second, but then there are people who can't get the stick up to 60.
Yeah.
So what would be the, from what you, from the user experience that you can observe, what would be the frame rate that is necessary for this experience to be smooth?
You'd want 60 frames a second minimum. Like that'd be my preferred choice. Any lower than that, you'll actually start seeing mini frame drops. So every 3 or 4 seconds, you'll see a slight judder. Any less than 60 frames a second, you will start feeling woozy, because when you turn your head, if it takes 3 seconds for the object to turn with you, you will feel a little bit strange.
So that effect would be, is that whole effect between 30 and 60? It's more of a general VR question. Is that like is it stronger on VR than it is like a normal display?
When you turn, is it to get the motion sickness?
No, the difference between that. Is the difference more noticeable on VR?
Oh, it is more noticeable because, let's say if you're looking at that chair on a normal 2D screen, it's only 2 inches tall. Whereas if you turn your head in VR, that chair is actually sitting there, and you'll actually notice that in your eye line a lot more than if you're just looking at a monitor. A monitor would be equivalent to when you turn, you see screen tear. You know, you notice that, but it's not too bad. Whereas in VR, if you turn your head and the world doesn't turn with you, you definitely know there's something up. Or your inner ear knows there's something up ahead. Anybody else? Okay. I think you have to wait every single good cardboard.
Choose 4 questions, I think, because we're gonna split like So we're going to, the rest of the presenters going to have 3 to give out. So you have to choose 4 best questions. So,
All right.
Well, yes, yeah. 200 questions.
They using this spray time about notions. When you experience any moving class, have this motion sickness. Okay, sorry. There was rumors that you can actually draw a nose.
Yeah, I've heard that. Tried it. Yeah, you don't even see the nose.
Well, actually, if you at least put something like that in the corner, it will resemble the nose for the brain and probably it's gonna help.
Yeah, it's
Modern Pinocchio.
Okay.
Pinocchio a lot of times on movies.
And about the first question was about control. If we're gonna come to the next meeting next month, I'm gonna talk about input, and I hope I'm gonna do some demo, and hopefully it's gonna answer a lot of questions. Little teaser.
You're not the nominee treasure. You're not nominee treasure.
Sorry?
The nominee.
No. Working on something.
Oh, yeah.
How many directional terminal, yeah?
I know a guy has it.
We backed the Cypress virtualizer. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that at some stage along the way.
I sure there's no holes in my socks.
Yeah. Okay, so before I start, actually, I just want to mention the AR Marketing Conference. That's the Augmented Reality Marketing Conference. Alex Gibson, he's been a great supporter of the 3Dcamp, and he's running that at the end of April. So, as Dave said, join the hip, augmented reality and virtual reality. It's a very good event. I was at the one in the Guinness Storehouse last year, so if you're interested, go on to that. So, yeah, let me go back there. So, and again, before I start my slides, I just want to relate how I met Gleb last summer at the Maker Fair. This isn't the Maker Fair, but we've shown the Oculus Rift to about 2,000 or 3,000 kids at this stage at various different events around the country. This was at the ITLG event in Shannon Airport last year. And it's the same thing everywhere you go. It's always this kind of 20 people deep. And there were 600 kids at this event, and they just kept circulating, coming back for a second and a third go. But at the Maker Fair in the lawn of Trinity College last year, it was the same kind of thing. And I was on my own that day. It was a Saturday, so I was under fierce pressure. And I had no Xbox controller, so I had to be bent over the desk with the mouse all day long. And I was stressed out, and Gleb came up to me and offered to give me a hand. I never met him at that stage. And we kept in touch afterwards, and he was talking about getting the virtual reality meetup group going here. And I said, you know, Gleb, we've been doing this conference down in UL for the last 8 years called 3Dcamp. And it's just a user-generated community, grassroots kind of an event, not-for-profit, always free to attend. And it's been looking at stuff like augmented reality, virtual reality, haptics, gestural interfaces, and the overlap with the real world as well, with 3D printing and so on. And after last year's event, we realized, you know, it's really, there's so much happening in this space, we need to do more regular events. So we're trying to get, you know, chapters going nationwide now. We have the 3Dcamp Limerick meetup group. I've been talking to people in Galway and then Cork as well, so we're hoping to get meetup groups going there fairly soon. But fair play to Gleb for taking the ball and running with it, and this group is, I think, nearly up to 100 members now at this stage, so well done, Gleb. I want to start off and just show you quickly a video that we showed at the second 3Dcamp in Limerick in 2009, a video called World Builder, which is a couple million views, I believe, on YouTube. It really struck a chord with a number of people, including myself. I won't show you the whole thing. It's about 9 minutes long, but I recommend having a look if you get a chance. Okay, so, that was, I think, 2009, and we see an awful lot of videos, concept videos nowadays for virtual reality that look something similar like that, but it was quite a vision to have at the time. I know with the Leap Motion headset, or the Leap Motion controller, which we can attach to the front of the headsets, we see ourselves doing this kind of hovercast menus and so on and so forth. So it's starting to become a reality now. But when I saw this at the time, I said, this is what we need to bring to schools. This is the way we need to allow kids to be world builders. So I've been kind of dabbling in and out of Second Life quite a bit of the time. Let me get out of this right now. Back and forth for years in Second Life. Never got really sucked into it, but I just thought there was so much potential in what they were trying to create there. An open-ended sandbox type virtual world. It always felt like it was limited by the control systems being two-dimensional, not having the three-dimensional interaction with a three-dimensional world. I was also doing volunteer IT support at the time for Wells School Door, a school in Newcastle West, which was a brand new national school, had an inspiring principal there called Dahi O'Murray, who's the guy in the centre there. He's well known in education centres or education circles as a keynote speaker at the ICT in Education conference there in 2010, I think. Dahi is a kind of thought leader in terms of the application of technology in education. And he used to be saying to us, look, we've got all this incredible technology in the school now, interactive whiteboards, all the broadband you could want, laptops and iPads and so on and so forth. But he said, we're not teaching any better or any differently with all this stuff. How can we use this technology to teach better? And I was aware, I think, at that stage of the emergence of this pedagogy of game-based learning, an actual valid and very much understood pedagogy of game-based learning now, which is the application of video games and games to learning. And really, it's taking, the characteristics of some of the best educational toys, like Lego, Meccano, Play-Doh, which are building blocks to allow kids to be creative, to create their own stuff. And if you take, for instance, as well, the sandbox. Okay, so we wanted to bring the idea of a digital sandbox to the school, effectively. As I said, been dabbling in Second Life for a few years. For obvious reasons, we couldn't use Second Life in the school. But what we did use was Open Simulator, which is really the open source version of Second Life. It's been kind of reverse engineered out of the open source client for Second Life. Looks the very same, and in fact, it's kind of passed out Second Life now in terms of the numbers of users and in terms of the size of the world. Okay, so we developed our own way of hosting that in the cloud and brought it into the school. And I'll just divert briefly now to Minecraft. So it was kind of hard to explain at the time what we were trying to do in terms of this game-based learning, open virtual world, a sandbox. Minecraft, of course, come along. In the meantime, it's been phenomenal, and people get it now. And Minecraft is not just, the game is kind of like the Trojan horse that draws kids into creating stuff for themselves. That's where the real power of Minecraft is a sandbox virtual world. A good friend of mine, Walter Higgins, down in Cork, I worked with him when we were in Apple together. He said, we can't see the whole lot of this slide, sorry. Okay. Walter's created a thing called Scriptcraft, which is a way of programming mods in Minecraft. Great way of introducing kids to programming. And he's bringing a book out very soon, actually, so keep an eye out for that. But he said last September, when the rumors were swirling about Microsoft buying Minecraft, that he hadn't heard much talk of Minecraft as a platform instead of Minecraft as a game. And to him and to me, Minecraft as a platform is much more interesting. And I just tweeted back to Walter at the time and said, look, I think this is actually, if it's true, it's going to be Microsoft's virtual reality play. Think Philip Rosedale's High Fidelity. So Philip Rosedale is the guy who created Second Life, and he has since started up a new startup now called High Fidelity, where he's kind of taking the lessons he learned from Second Life, the things that did work and things that didn't work. And High Fidelity is kind of a peer-to-peer virtual reality, so keep in mind that one's very interesting. And of course, then in January or February, Microsoft introduced HoloLens, and it was great to see that Minecraft featured heavily in that. So I think it is going to be a kind of flagship product for them to demo HoloLens. And just briefly before I go back, it was great to see last week that every secondary school in Northern Ireland is now going to get Minecraft. It's the first place it's being done on a regional basis. So yeah, so look, this is what we introduced, Open Simulator. That was the idea, to kind of create a Minecraft, even though we didn't have that at the time, to allow kids to build their own stuff. So I have great admiration for what the guys here have done, and building your own content, like that takes an awful lot of effort. Our view on it was, like, we'd seen schools adopting game-based learning kind of off the shelf. They were getting a game, a Nintendo game, let's say, to teach one area of the maths curriculum and another game to teach one area of the geography curriculum. We just felt that was kind of unsustainable for schools. We wanted to give them a platform that would allow them to create their own curriculum content. So the kids started off building this kind of stuff, even, building the Parthenon at Acropolis. You're learning all about maths and the golden ratio and so on. So this is just the early days, 2010. We were blogging and tweeting about it mad, and then some teachers started paying attention. Simon Lewis is the kind of preeminent teacher blogger in Ireland. He thought it was incredible potential in it. And we got talking to the NCT, the National Centre for Technology and Education. So that was the unit of the department at the time that had funding for technology projects in schools. Didn't fund a whole lot of things, so it was great to get their support. And they funded us to run a 20-school pilot project. I think the Green Dots were the ones we eventually ran it in. 14 different counties, 20 schools. So Jerome Morrissey was the director at the time, and he said, that the use of 3D learning was very much in line with their thinking around the implementation of Project Maths. And not just maths, that's what he quoted here, but he said it touched all areas of the curriculum, geography, history, and so on. So we created Mission V, not-for-profit at the time, and got support from Social Entrepreneurs Ireland. And then we had one training day in the Galway Education Centre. 20 teachers came along, and they went back and they started into it straight away. And this was kind of the early reactions that we see here on Twitter. They talk about it being very, very motivational way of learning, very colourful way of learning. And I know Natalia said that then at the end of the year. She talked about 3D virtual space, pushing the boundaries of teaching and learning in so many dynamic and exciting ways, really captivating. Stephen Devlin in Inchicore, he said he had great stories about the kids coming in the morning, high-fiving each other because they'd solved the problem the night before in the virtual space together. So the kids used to go home and meet each other inside in the virtual world and work on a maths problem and solve it. I'll just show you a brief video now. This is from that time, and this is at the start actually. So my avatar is here and the kids have the same avatars in the background there. And what they're doing is they're programming little turtles you'll see here in Scratch, the Scratch programming language, which is a great way of introducing kids to programming. Most of the coder dojos, I think at this stage, are using it. And one of the advantages of using a system, an open source system like Open Simulator, is that it's often compatible with a lot of these tools. So the kids could create their programs in Scratch. These are all primary school children now, and bring them in, attach them to objects here. So they were learning about angles, acute angles, and so on. And they were getting the turtles to go off in different directions and just draw these some more sophisticated shapes in the background. As I say, this was at the very start. Later on, they started doing 3D spirals and all sorts of interesting stuff. It was almost like learning how to do 3D printing in this kind of a way. So again, if you got a chance to see the chat even there going on in the background, you can see the kids are just so excited about learning in that way. So yeah, again, another advantage of having a big system, an open source system like Open Simulator, is a lot of people working in this space, making a living in Second Life, and they can bring those skills over across to Open Sim. So there was a company called 3D Collab, I think, up in Belfast. They built an amazing simulation of Harland and Wolff shipyard and the Titanic. That's not the Titanic there, that's the sister ship, I think. The Titanic is down underwater actually, so you had to go down to see the sunken Titanic. And it's a bit like, remember the holodeck in Star Trek, you could say, okay, computer, run the program. So we could swap in and out these various different simulations. And the whole idea was to build the ecosystem where the kids on the program could literally use, an endless amount of simulations, have access to those. So besides the 20 School project, we worked with NUI Maynooth. We worked in a module there with the trainee teachers, so the teachers themselves learned how to create learning content in OpenSim. The DCU one was interesting as well. Again, that's not full size there, sorry. DCU used it as an actual virtual classroom for their access program. So they're trying to get kids in disadvantaged schools in North Dublin interested in colleges and options. So 6 different schools, 3 kids in each school, 18 kids altogether, met each other and their tutor only in the virtual world for this particular module. The tutor was sitting down in DCU. So that's just a picture there. Early on, they were learning how to program Scratch, which you can see in the background. The kids are asking questions from the tutor, and then they're attaching those scripts to the geometric shapes and so on. So at the end of the year, got great feedback from the teachers. Almost to a person, they were very positive about teaching using those methods. Dr. Conor Galvin at UCD School of Education and Lifelong Learning there did an independent evaluation, and that's available on the website. You can see, but by and large, he gives a massive thumbs up, and he says that this should have been rolled out to every school in the country. But unfortunately for us, and before I get on to that, what happened was that the NCTE, the timing wasn't great because they got effectively dissolved into another unit of the Department of Education called the PDST, the Professional Development Service for Teachers. Those guys didn't have a budget for technology programs, so it fell between 2 schools, and even though 60-something schools lined up to participate, we got no funding for it. So as a last resort, we tried running a crowdfunding campaign, not on Kickstarter, but on Funded. We felt that that was kind of more appropriate for what we were trying to do. We were looking for 29 grand, and we were amazed, really, to be honest with you, to get 13 grand in pledges, because the only people that could have really availed of this were the kids and their parents, I guess, in the schools who were going to run the program in 38 schools. There was just so much goodwill out there towards that project. It was just great to get that much support even. So at that stage, we had to make a decision, are we going to try and see if we can go down the charity route, raise money that way, or do we, find out if we can make some other business model work. But what we decided in the end was just to, wind down the not-for-profit, and we rebooted as SimVirtua on the Enterprise Ireland New Frontiers program. So Mission V is still a product that we offer, cloud-based open simulator, but we're not pushing that too hard at the moment. We're more consultancy now and developing enterprise and industrial applications for virtual reality, in particular in the areas of health and safety. And we're talking to some, I guess, a few household names in that area. Unfortunately, I can't really say who at the moment, but hopefully later on I'll be able to talk about that. But just in wrapping up then, I'd say that at least before we wrapped up in the schools program, it was great that we finally got a chance to bring the headset, the vision, I guess you want to call it the vision we had 3, 4, or 5 years ago of, virtual worlds is grand, but really what we wanted to have was virtual reality in the schools. So we brought it along to the school in County Offaly, two-teacher school in the middle of nowhere, near Clonmacnoise. They did a field trip to Clonmacnoise and went and built their own virtual Clonmacnoise, which was fantastic. And then they got to experience. You can see they spent like several weeks building this and you'll see the monitors in the video, like the old cathode ray tubes, such a contrast between the ways they built it and they eventually got to experience it. And, you'd think after a few weeks of building it, they'd be kind of intimately familiar with the scale and the dimensions, but they weren't. It was only when they put on the headset, you can see the faces of joy here, the experience of really, really experiencing this model that they had created properly for the first time. It got a bit of attention, actually. It was Technology.ie, which is part of Black Knight, came down to the school and did a video for us, and it got picked up by Engadget, and it got, I don't know, about 10,000 views afterwards. But I remember getting a tweet from some guy in Silicon Valley saying, how are you guys in rural Ireland teaching and using these headsets, and we're not even doing that here yet, which is great. So I'll just show you a video. I'm not too sure if we have time. This is about 5 minutes long, but we'll show us as much as we feel is appropriate. Oh, sorry.
Because they're just one to the feet. And then there's
When I saw the value of virtual world, and I wanted to do something then based on history, because we're interested in history. Clonmacnoise is down the road, and we tried to replicate Clonmacnoise, and the kids didn't realise this is all about education, it's all about history, it's all about project management and typing up reports and proper spelling, and but to them it's fun. And the door here in the morning, there would be a queue outside the door for them to get in. So we use it in the morning. On my days, we use it at break time. They download the improvements and use it at home. And as I said earlier, the mummies and daddies also became involved.
Whoa! Way bigger. My name is Emma and I'm in 6th class. And I'm just showing this girl, Rebecca, how to build and I'm showing her.
Just to explain there that Rebecca, and this was the great thing about it being an open virtual world, was that once they built this Clonmacnoise noise, they were able to invite in kids from other schools to experience it, and they used to act as kind of virtual tour guides. So they'd take in the kids from the other schools and give them a guided tour of Clonmacnoise noise and teach them about the history. So the multi-user part of it was great.
I was showing her how to do like gestures and all that.
The fact that it's so creative, that they were solving problems. That's the amazing part of it as far as I'm concerned. Because that leads to good teamwork, it leads to the kids teaching each other, and everyone's know they're doing it.
This is the whispering arch. A monk was standing on one side to whisper to the priest on the other side.
It's kind of cool that you get to make virtual stuff. The research sometimes for as well, like organizing the sheets of paper and making stuff as well.
And you can do stretches, and you can do whatever size you want. Then if you want to change the colour, you go in here and you've got loads of different textures. But you're able to download your own textures. Like I downloaded all of those.
Yeah, it feels like I'm actually using that kind of stuff.
It feels a lot different because it feels like you're actually doing it.
Whoa,
That is humongous.
cool.
Crosses.
The boys and girls are working together. The 4 classes working with 6th class. Somebody finds a solution to a problem, and then they tell everybody else. I mean, we spent ages here one day trying to put a stomach into a cow, a picture into a cow, during the last project. And this year it was making the door open properly. We didn't want sliding doors, we didn't want doors that fell flat, we wanted a door that opened like a door.
When the script is done, you have to link it to the door.
So you've just created a door
Yeah.
and given it a script which will open it when someone touches it.
Yeah.
Can we see that work?
Now I have a bit of a ramp. So,
Here you go.
and then if I turn around, it's closed. So then you're in. I got a pyramid and I flattened it. And I rotated it.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Oh, right there! Literally right there!
I can see temple cleaning and tower stuff. All that good. Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I can see Gracie. Oh, it's nice. Oh, it's so cool. Oh, it's nice. Oh, this is way better than the
So yeah, I mean, like it goes back to again the world builder video. That idea of allowing kids to be their own world builders in school. That was the whole idea all along. And obviously, the next step there is to put the hands into the control of it with the Leap Motion or the Nimble VR that's going to be built into the Oculus Rift probably. And then you'll have, because World Builder, the way the guy was building stuff there was the way it's done in Second Life. You take cubes, as I say, and you extract and you extrude and so on. Just to wind up, so I thought that Mark Andreessen, they backed, Andreessen Horowitz backed Oculus, I think, to the tune of about 70 million before Facebook bought them this time last year. And Andreessen, of course, is the guy who created the first web browser as well, so he's quite an influential guy in the valley. But he said, you know, that it's not just about games, it's going to fundamentally redefine areas like film, education, and architecture. And I certainly agree with him on that one. So that's us. Thanks very much. And if you have any questions, I'll take them.
So just based on the way you talked, you were talking about how you have to sort of adopt a new business model. Would you say that education is still your passion? Kind of the way you talk about it seems to be.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. It took us a long time to extract ourselves in, to kind of give up. As I say, that was the kid with the weights, you know, it's how long do you keep trying to make it work before you decide you just can't make it work. And we felt we couldn't do so as a not-for-profit. So we're still offering the Mission B, the cloud-based service, as a product. And we had 11 schools last year paying for it. Just we haven't pushed it because we're a small team and we've really turned our attention out to building more commercial, industrial applications.
And do you think that if like the environment was more friendly, you'd go back to being a not-for-profit? That's a weird question.
I suppose not really. You know,
You've already committed to this.
yeah. When you make up your mind, you go with it. Yeah, probably not. No. Yeah.
So just going to be about it. Did you find it difficult to sign schools to pay?
As paying customers?
Yeah.
Most of the 11 were actually schools we already had as when the department was funding it. So we didn't really go out too hard looking for new schools, to be honest with you. We just didn't have the resources to do that. And these schools had already experienced and said, yeah, we don't care, we've got to pay for it, we're happy to pay for it again because we found it so good. You know, we one secondary school actually signed up, didn't do a whole lot with it because there was some situation in the school, but they felt that it had a lot of potential for the new curriculum, the new junior cert curriculum. Yeah.
Just wanted to be leading on that as well. I mean, firstly, congratulations. It's great to see yourself and nurse here and doing such fantastic work with kids because you're reaching into kids that don't fit sometimes within the academic kind of box that's put out there. So it's fantastic to see that. And I think as well, if you look at the way the education is, and you're doing great in schools, are the parents being supportive? What I find as well is like 93% of parents who are actually purchasing and paying gaming devices are actually looking for something else to sit on it. You know, something that's more educational. And I think like even for like $15.99, I'd actually pay more for that particular product. But the problem with a lot of the parents is they don't really understand the technology and what's out there, that if you have something that you could approach parents to bring back in, it might even have helped you with the funding.
Yeah, you know, we had a lot, like while we were running this program, we've had a lot of individuals coming to us, parents in particular, with saying exactly that kind of thing, you know, my child is not like, you know, they might have learning difficulties or for whatever other reason they're not getting on great at school, and this would be just perfect for them. That was the way, and it always kind of, it killed us really that we couldn't offer it on an individual basis like that. We could only offer it to schools really. It just wouldn't have been vital for us to do that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, we did have support from parents. A lot of the in the crowdfunding campaign, a lot of that support came in from parents for sure. Yeah.
It's amazing many people are outside of the environment that don't even know it exists, and to educate them to know the products are there so that they can actually go on and access them as well. You know?
Yeah, very true.
How intuitive do the kids find using the Oculus and building stuff? Do they take to it really quickly?
The kids?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, they only got to experience the Oculus there at the very end of the program, so they just got to experience it for one day to just see what they'd built. The building was all done in just the ordinary virtual world platform. They took to it like fish to water, you know, absolutely no problem. No, I mean, we've used the Leap Motion Controller ourselves with what we're building now with Unity. But it's not yet compatible with the viewer for Second Life. Actually, there was a viewer for OpenSim before there was for Second Life. And they're making very slow progress in it, which is amazing to me because they should have seen this as a lifeline for themselves, I thought. But I think Philip Rosedale will probably show them how it's done now with high fidelity. I'd love to have been able to see if we could get that and actually do the full vision of that world builder thing where they could just pull these shapes apart like they should do. Be able to do, yeah, you know. Hopefully something.
Yeah, what was your experience with the teachers when you're trying to get them to kind of teach the children? Like, how are they receptive of this kind of new technology for them when they're used to teaching in traditional ways or so on?
That's a very interesting question because it was an interesting learning experience for us. I suppose we would have had this notion that maybe the younger teachers are going to be people that grew up playing games and they're going to be more receptive to this. What you saw there was probably one of the best teachers we had in the whole program, and she's retired last year. Esther was amazing because she had the right attitude, you know, the right attitude. And then on the other hand, we had some newer teachers who weren't, you know, they felt like we can't teach using video games because that isn't the proper way to teach because, you know, they don't have, I guess, the years of experience to know what they don't need to know, you know. So if we got, and we were very lucky with the teachers that got on the program with us, they nearly all came with us to the end of the year. It was about having the right attitude, and a lot of them said, I don't know this and I won't get it, but the kids will straight away, and they'll show me. And what happened in the schools was a lot of peer-to-peer learning where the teacher was sitting down with the kids and they were showing her stuff and she was showing them stuff, and it's great to see that kind of a dynamic in action. So as a whole, we had a great bunch of teachers, but you know, they kind of got, to a degree, handpicked for us by the NCTE, and they were great. Sorry, the lady in the back first, yeah.
Just wondering how the schools have been left with the platform at this point. Like, are they sort of going on and looking at their next project, or how does that model work when you engage with a school? You know, I'm assuming that there's a lot of training sort of at the front end where you're getting them engaged and teaching them how the platform works, and then after you go away, are they then able to just go on and make, you know, the next historical landmark that they want to explain?
Yeah, like we had that one day of training physically in that Galway Education Centre, and any of the follow-up training that we did was done in the virtual world. So we met them there, and that worked quite well. And then they also, like there's a huge library of content on YouTube for building stuff in Second Life. And we did our own tutorials as well. We also created a kind of a private network for them to share tips with each other and to share content. So the whole idea was to build up a bigger library of this content that they could share with each other.
And is that the school in County Offaly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they now going, like, are they continuing on and making the next thing?
No, to be honest with you, Esther retired last year, and that was the end of that. You know, so unfortunately, no. And to be honest, we haven't kind of pushed, and we haven't really pushed the sales of the product because, as I say, we just need to concentrate now on the other products that we're building that's in virtual. You know, because we couldn't see a way to make it work really, to make it affordable for the schools. If we could get 100 schools on the platform in the morning, you know, we could scale that in the cloud very, very easily, and we could make it affordable for all of them. But it was kind of catch-22. When you had a small number, it was costing them too much because it takes a lot of resources to deliver 3D graphics in the cloud like that.
So it's primarily visual. Do you see that as a sort of minimal effective dose for virtual reality teaching? So like the next steps would be sort of haptic feedback, binaural sound. Do you see them adding much to the experience, or are they sort of like a nice to have?
Yeah, I think like David said, the sound is definitely a huge part of a VR experience. For us, it was mainly that visual aspect. Like with the work that we did with DCU, it was only just as we were finishing up with them, with that virtual classroom, that we managed to add voice, spatial voice to the platform, which would have greatly improved the experience for them because they found when they were typing messages back and forth, it was just a bit too slow. It was too much of a hog in terms of communication. The kids were too slow to type, and there was too many of them typing to the teacher, so that just didn't really work. So the voice aspect would have certainly helped there. So the audio didn't come into play for what we were doing. Now the kids with Scratch, they were able to add their own audio elements to the various different objects in the virtual world, all right, and that certainly added quite a bit to them. So some of them had guided walkthroughs. So you walk to a certain part of that clang-like noise and you get a message to come in this direction or so on. But other than that, we didn't really, as for haptics, we're not even there yet. 3.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm going to give these to
You have to choose.
So you want to hear Marie? I don't know.
I got.
You got one already.
I think the guys in the first row, probably.
Not here. Thanks. I'll just add up here, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Probably use incognito mode just to prevent the passwords to be stored.
Sorry, what?
Incognito mode?
Incognito mode.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Not just with keyboards. How do you do the arrowbus? The hat.
What?
The hat.
You don't need to add the cappuccino. You just log in with your.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
So what was the ad?
Yeah, shift and number 2. Probably the answer to the text. You actually will say.
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna use my USB key. What is this? Seriously. How can I open a PDF?
Open the video?
This is a PDF.
Oh, PDF. Sorry.
I don't know where you open that.
Probably not a PDF you're on. You have to install PDF here. We only need to share here. Only new laptop is not installed on Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I open it full screen.
Oh, sorry.
I would think it's this one. Is this, what is this?
Full screen.
Full screen.
Okay. Thank you very much. So hello everyone. I am Baptiste from France, founder of Unimersive. Unimersive is a platform for virtual reality educational content, so basically a platform for experiences like the one David is working on. I'm going to talk about Unimersive in a few minutes, but first I would like to talk a little bit about the history of education. So I think that we always used technology to improve our learning abilities. Everything started with the pencil that we used to write the first books. And then teachers were able to use the chalkboard to help kids learn in a more efficient way. Then the videotape came in 1980, and we used it to learn in a new way, like to watch documentaries in classes or at home. Then 10 years after that, in 1990, we started using the CD-ROM to install the first educational softwares. And that was, I would say, the first attempt at interactive learning. More recently came the laptop and the internet. With internet, we have access to all of the knowledge in just a few clicks. And since everyone can write on the internet or everyone can publish a video, everyone can share his knowledge. And finally, with the device that we have in our pocket, we can answer any question we have in just anywhere and at any time. So we always used technology to improve our learning abilities, and I believe that the use of technology in education won't stop now. And the question is, what is the next thing? Like we answered earlier with David and with James, I believe that virtual reality would be the next thing in education. Why? Virtual reality shows some great benefits in education. First of all, better memories. Like David says, an American educationist named Edgar Dale made a study 50 years ago, I think, that says that if we read something after 2 weeks, we tend to remember 10% of it. If you hear something, you tend to remember 20%. But if you live or if you simulate something, you tend to remember 90% of it, and this is pretty a big number. So better memories for learning through virtual reality. Then faster learning. In France, we used to say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I believe that a 15-minute experience is on the Oculus Rift worth a 1-hour documentary that we could watch on the TV. Immersion in history and space. As a kid, I always loved reading about the history or about science. But now, through virtual reality and thanks to the work of developers like David, we have the opportunities to live in the history, and this is pretty amazing. Like our kids and even us, we are going to be able to visit all of the greatest events of the history and all of the darkest periods. So we can learn in a really interactive way everything about history and about sciences, like the experience from Dredger Titans of Space. It's a really great way to learn about the solar system. You really are immersed into space, and after that you're sure that you will remember the orders of the planets from Mercury to Pluto. And finally, I believe no one will argue about that. Virtual reality is a lot more engaging than all of the other mediums we use for technology, we use for education. The question now is how to make VR education happen. Some developers are already working on some great educational content that can be used on the Oculus Rift. But I wanted to be a part of it, and I thought about it, and I was like, maybe we should do it for schools, like developing VR content only for young people, or maybe after that I was thinking about developing content for professionals, for companies, like venue training. I was thinking about helping companies to help their employees learn faster through virtual reality. But then I realized that what I wanted to do was to help anyone learn faster through virtual reality. So I decided to build Unimersive. Just like I told you, Unimersive is a platform or a marketplace to learn through virtual reality. So what we do is that we contact VR developers, and we put their content on our platform. They can choose the price of it, they can update the course, they can choose the description they want, and then after we review the content, it is automatically visible on Unimersive and users can download it. Here are a few details about Unimersive. So first of all, secure hosting, because this is important for us. Some of the courses will be paid. The developers can choose to make their courses as paid or as free courses, and we wanted to have really secure hosting. So we use the Amazon Web Services to store all of the content that developers are sending us. Then to process the payment, we used Stripe, which is a great American startup. This is a really secure way to process payment, really transparent. Then we give developers the ability to add their coming soon courses. A lot of developers are currently working on their experiences, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to spread the word about their experiences before it was finished. So with coming soon courses, they can send us an email and ask us to add their courses which is not finished yet on the platform, so that they can get the first users to subscribe to it. And then when the courses launch, we send an email to all of us users who subscribe, and they can download it. This is a great way to spread the word about their experience before it's finished. Finally, we know that VR development can be very long, so we are launching this week a free 3D model collection that developers can download for free. So basically, there will be a virtual classroom, a sports room, and our goal is to help developers we want to make those models available for free, because this can really speed up the process of VR development, and everyone can send us models so that we can add them on the website. And with this cycle, we want to get as much VR developers to work on educational content as we can. These are already a few experiences that are available on the platform. There are a dozen experiences available on the platform for now. These are 4 I choose. Titans of Space is from Drivier. This is an amazing experience. Dinosaurs is the first version of a developer. Basically, with this experience, you're transported on an island, and you can walk in front of us. I think there is 10 or 12 different dinosaurs. You can walk in front of them and learn about their name and remember it. So this is just the first version, but with a little bit more work, I believe this could really help us learn about dinosaurs in a fun way. Apollo 11, of course. I couldn't have built this website without having Apollo 11. I believe this is, for me, this is the best experience that I've tried so far in the Oculus Rift. And this is just a great way to show that we can teach history through virtual reality. And I felt that when I used it for the first time, after the first time I used it, I remember so many things. I heard about Apollo 11 a lot of times, but I remember so much more things after I've used it. But before, when I only read about it or when I only watched documentaries about it. But it's really this is a great proof that learning through virtual reality is really efficient. I added another one, which is a coming soon courses that is visible on Universive. This is an experience from an American professor named Bernard Fisher. What he wants is to make us walk in the ancient Rome like it was under the Roman Empire. I can't try to try it on the Oculus Rift. We only have a video from now showing what it will be, because the 3D models are already done. This is going to be a brand new experience that will show again that learning history through virtual reality is happening. This cut from Confucius David used it earlier, no problem. I use it also because this sums up perfectly what this presentation is about. Tell me and I will forget, show me and I may remember, involve me and I will understand. With virtual reality, you can involve people. You can make them live in the period they want. What I want you to understand, I don't know if there are any VR developers out there, but with virtual reality, you can really help people learn faster. You can inspire people. And working on educational content is a great way. I think it's the best way to use this technology, because you can, like the video that David shows us earlier, it sums up perfectly that. I mean, the kid was almost crying because he had the chance to live the Apollo 11 mission. As a young person, I didn't have that chance to live the Apollo 11 mission. And this experience, it made me felt like I lived it. So this was only one experience, but if you work on it, I mean, there are a full kind of history period that you can work on, but not only history. And if you're passionate about sports, you can teach sports. You can teach karate. You could teach yoga for virtual reality. And the goal of Universive is not only to feature courses about history or about science, but also about sports, maybe about kitchen. We can learn how to cook for virtual reality with technology like Motion, when you can see your hands. We can basically learn anything from virtual reality, and the fact that we learn so much faster than any other medium, I think that we really could push the human race forward, because this is so much more powerful than anything that we used before. So if you're a VR developer, stop working on games and work on educational content phase. If you have any question I hear, that is it. I'm sorry for my English. I'm from France. So any question?
Is Universive just you, or is there a team?
We are 3 people. I'm the most involved person. I've done the web development, but I have 2 other people working with me to do the community of VR developers, and I may work with 2 other people for creating the 3D models. Yeah.
How many people visit the website or use it regularly?
Well, the website is pretty new. Like we launched it 2 weeks ago, and since last we shared it with some teachers on Reddit, of course. We get something like 300 visits per day since the launch of the website, which is a really good start. I'm happy with that. And then, like David told us earlier, for now, the number of people owning a VR headset is pretty limited, but this will explode in the coming year, and I'm really happy that I can launch it before Yeah.
Could you tell a little bit more about working with developers, like monetization model?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Like we have two monetization model. Basically, if you add you sell new content, you can choose. The developers can choose the price of your content. They can set it for free, or they can set it for a certain price. We keep if the developers sell on Universe, sell the content on Universe and on our website, we keep 15% of the transaction, cover the fee of the transaction, and the cost of the servers and of running the team. So 15% for Universe and 85% for the VR developers. If the developers put this content exclusively on Universe, we give him 95% of the total of the amount paid by engagement. Are there any VR developers here? No? Fun? Not for you? Yeah. But what I really want is not to restrain it to history learning. I really hope that one day we will be able to learn how to do, just like I said, sports or kitchen, so many other things from virtual reality. And the goal of this website is that to accept as many content as we can, quality content of course, so to push the VR education further, I would say. Yeah.
Do you ever envision that you'll have something like Janus VR where you can seamlessly go into these experiences in one place, kind of like the metaverse in the future?
Yeah, I would love to. I can tell more about that. I can't tell about that right now. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, of course, I would love to. Like, I clearly envision putting the VR set and then walking in the maybe different rooms to see a different experience, or just like touching something with the motion technology to launch the course you want. We clearly hope that one day we'll have something like that. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
This is basically it for today. For the rest of the time, you can talk if you want. You can ask questions. Presenters, I think, still here, so they can probably do a presentation if anyone wants to experience.
Yeah, if anybody wants to do the color lab experience, that's it. Maybe go.
Whereas if you want to do that before. No? Nobody wants to do it? Okay.